Let's be clear, this isn't just the story of a car company. It's the story of how a handful of dreamers, against all odds, invented the very idea of personal freedom on four wheels. It's an incredible journey from a ridiculed toy to a global icon.
So let me ask you this. Imagine pouring your entire life into an invention, only to have everyone you know call it a useless, pointless toy. What do? Do you just give up? Or do you find a way, any way, to prove them all wrong? Because that's really what we're talking about here. This isn't just a story about gears and engines. It's about a stubborn, almost crazy refusal to accept the limits of the world, a spirit that would eventually define the Mercedes-Benz name. Okay, so to really grasp how big of a leap this was, we have to try and imagine a world powered by muscle, not motors. A world where the fastest thing on your street was, well, a horse. I mean, seriously think about it. The soundtrack of the city wasn't engine noise, it was the clip-clop of horses. If you wanted to go anywhere, you either walked, you rode a horse, or you took a train. The idea of your own personal motorized vehicle, that was pure science fiction.
And here's where the whole story gets really fascinating. The two men who would define this new era, they weren't partners. They weren't even friends. They were miles apart working on the same problem from totally different angles. You had Karl Benz, who was obsessed with building the entire vehicle, the whole shebang from the ground up. And then you had Gottlieb Daimler, who was laser-focused on perfecting the heart of the machine, a small, powerful, high-speed engine. Two different paths, both unknowingly heading toward the same exact destiny.
You know, an invention is just an idea in a workshop. To become a real innovation, it needs proof that it actually works in the real world. And that proof, it wasn't going to come from an engineer. It came from a determined woman who saw what no one else could. So Karl Benz had done it. He'd actually built the world's first automobile. And nobody cared. I'm not kidding. It was mocked. People called it a noisy, smelly toy. His company was on the verge of total collapse, and his dream was basically dying on the vine. And this is where the whole story just completely turns on a dime. Karl's wife, Bertha Benz, decided she'd had enough. Without even telling him, she took the car, grabbed her two sons, and set off on the world's first long-distance road trip. And when things inevitably went wrong, she didn't panic. She got creative. A fuel line gets clogged, she clears it with her hat pin. The brakes wear out, she gets a shoemaker to nail new leather on them. She literally invented roadside assistance on the fly. And fuel. She bought it from pharmacies, effectively creating the world's first gas stations. 66 miles. I know, that might not sound like much to us today, but in 1888, that was like a trip to the moon. That one single journey proved to the entire world that this automobile wasn't some silly toy. It was practical, it was reliable, and it was, without a doubt, the future. Bertha's drive basically lit a fire under the whole industry, and suddenly the race was on. But our two pioneers, Benz and Daimler, were still fierce competitors. It was going to take a full-blown national crisis to finally bring them together.
So for decades, they just competed head-to-head, constantly trying to one-up each other. But after World War I, Germany's economy was completely shattered. We're talking hyperinflation so bad that money was practically worthless. So it wasn't some grand vision that brought them together, it was pure survival. In 1926, these two great rivals merged, pooling everything they had just to stay alive. And the result of that desperate merger was Mercedes-Benz.
And out of that union, a company literally born from desperation, came a philosophy that would define them for the next 100 years.
The best or nothing. And listen, this wasn't just some catchy marketing slogan. It became the very soul of their engineering. It meant a relentless, almost obsessive pursuit of perfection, precision, and durability in absolutely everything they built. And they absolutely lived by that motto. On the racetrack, their dominant silver arrows became a global symbol of German engineering precision. And for the everyday driver, they were always innovating, introducing the world's first diesel passenger car, proving that you could have both power and efficiency.
But for all their success with speed and luxury, that relentless pursuit of the best would lead them to their most important legacy. And it had nothing to do with building faster cars. It was about saving lives. They started treating safety not as an optional extra you pay more for, but as a core engineering principle. The crumple zone, anti-lock brakes, the airbag. I mean, these are things we just take for granted in every car now. But they weren't just features for Mercedes cars, they became standards for the entire industry. I mean, just take the crumple zone for a second. It's such a brilliant and kind of counterintuitive idea, right? The car is literally designed to destroy itself in a crash. Why? To absorb all that violent energy and protect what's most precious inside, the people. That is the best or nothing in its purest form. So after a century of invention, of survival, of innovation, how does all of that shape the company that we see today?
Well, that tiny inventor's workshop is now a global powerhouse. And it's so much more than just the luxury cars we all know. Mercedes-Benz is an absolute titan of industry, building the massive commercial trucks, buses, and industrial vehicles that really form the backbone of the global economy.
What an unbelievable journey. I mean, you go from a ridiculed invention in a tiny workshop, saved by a single 66-mile act of faith, forged together an economic crisis, and ultimately defined by this unwavering, absolute commitment to excellence.
Which really brings us to a final thought. Karl Benz invented the car, but it was the courage of Bertha, the rivalry with Daimler, and that relentless philosophy of the best or nothing that turned that invention into a true innovation, one that didn't just create a new machine, but completely re-engineered the modern world.